I'm back again to talk about the newest episode of Amazon's Wheel of Time TV show so I can get my thoughts out of my head and move on with my life. So let's get into it. Alright, I'm back because I realized that I was gonna get really thirsty going on this rant as I spill some all over myself, much like Logain did. Much like Moiraine and Rand in these last episodes, I thought I'd go get myself a nice glass of Gildanon Red. Cheers. And also, I think I just want to preface this video by saying thank you for tuning in to my Wheel of Time recap and review breakdowns. It's just a nice fun break from my more research heavy videos and a fun excuse for me to just let my nerd flag fly and talk about one of my favorite series that I have read, which is The Wheel of Time, and which not a lot of people in my social circle IRL have read. So I don't really have anybody to, and have never sadly had anybody to discuss Wheel of Time with. So cheers to that. So we open this episode with the infamous trailer shot of Lanfear's release. And I love this opening scene because for a split second, it almost looks like Ishamael breaks the fourth wall and looks directly to camera and is looking directly at us, the audience. And it is just very Sam Raimi, Evil Dead, and very spooky, so I loved that. And then I was also interested to see that shot of him channeling the One Power, or at least what I'm assuming is saidin, because it's hard to tell with the flows that he's using because they're so precise the way they're being portrayed, but it almost seems like there is not a taint, or I'm not really seeing that taint of saidin flowing through his weaves. Is he using the true power? But either way, here we see the scene where Lanfear is released and her seal is broken, kind of like this combination of instead of it just being the seals on the Dark One's prison, they're also seals on the Forsaken. Then we switch to a scene of a Cairhienin noblewoman getting ready in the morning, who we learn is Anvaer Damadred. I, for one, really liked this little cutaway scene because while some people might think it's boring or unnecessary, in my opinion, if there is any scene that is book accurate, it is this. Bless Robert Jordan for just loving to write about dresses. You will get paragraphs and paragraphs of descriptions in the novels about what each character in the scene is wearing. And so I don't think it's entirely out of pocket to have a scene of a woman in her chambers getting ready for the morning. And it also is similar to the opening scene that we got from season 1, now that I think about it, where we see Moiraine getting ready and arming herself to go out into the world. But instead, it's her, as we find out, Moraine's younger sister, which they're definitely putting a lot of emphasis on. And I did go check my handy dandy Wheel of Time compendium book that I had just to see if this was book canon, and it is. The novel's on there and is from House Damodred, and Moiraine is also from House Damodred, as we find out in the books. And not only that, a little background from the novel, House Damodred also used to be the royal family, the ruling family in Cairhien, until their downfall that led to the Aiel War, predecessing Rand's birth in the books. So here we find out that she is Moraine's younger sister, even though she is very old now, and is just another example of the Aes Sedai lifespans and their slowed aging process, and how it impacts not only them but those around them that they try to have relationships with. I've been thinking about it, and I think especially in these scenes with her interactions with her sister, reflecting on these and the scenes with her interactions with Lan in the first couple novels. It was hard for me at first to really see where that was going or why Moiraine was acting this way toward everyone around her, but I have to say that upon reflection, for better or worse, this portrayal of Moiraine is playing true to how she comes off and how she acts toward others from their perspectives in the novel, especially Rand. She comes across as very close-lipped, mysterious, and never revealing her plans to anyone or her feelings to anyone, even if it might be beneficial for her to do so. And it's something which Rand in particular really comes to resent about her and Aes Sedai in general, is just how secretive they are. In the novels, it could be that Moiraine is perhaps afraid to influence Rand and thereby influence prophecy by revealing too much to him, but we see it coming off here as she's not even being open with the people who should be closest to her, Lan, her warder, and her family, her sister. I think an interesting bit of background here toward why Moraine's sister is coming off so harshly toward her, not just because it's literally been decades since Moiraine was there and they got to interact or talk or see each other at all since she went away to the tower, but House Damodred is not just a fallen house now and really low in standing after falling from being the ruling family, but if I recall correctly, in the prequel novel, New Spring, we also see that part of Moraine's dilemma and why she also had to escape the tower as a whole is because there were some inner workings, I think either among the Tower Aes Sedai and or the Cairhien and noble houses and House Damodred to seat Moiraine herself on the throne as the next Queen of Cairhien, and thereby not only restore their standing as a house, but also get some more direct influence in politics from Aes Sedai by having an Aes Sedai queen on the throne. So this could also play into the greater politics and why Moraine's sister not only had to struggle so much after she left, but why so much was then placed on her shoulders after Moiraine left. I think Moiraine, for better or worse, is playing to that Aes Sedai stereotype and kind of playing to how she ends up coming off toward others in the novels, of not being open and upfront about her inner workings and her plans. We then switch to Rand, who's cleaning up after inadvertently burning down Celene's inn last episode, and Celene implies that she wants to get away for a nice little holiday up near Kinslayer's Dagger. Kinslayer's Dagger is not only the mountains or foothills north of the city of Cairhien, which kind of jut out from the major mountain range known as the Spine of the World, which separate Randland from the Aiel Waste. Kinslayer's Dagger is also, ironically, named after the dragon, Lews Therin Telamon. So, a little bit ironic that she wants to take Rand there for a little getaway. Rand is kind of here already evolving into his emo Rand phase and says that he wants to be alone. But Celene just gives him a Luke. A very compulsory Luke, if you will. And suddenly I have a feeling that despite his protests, Rand will end up caving in and going on this trip with her. So then we're back at the White Tower with Nynaeve and Egwene and the Supergirls, as I like to call them. Turns out, as I predicted last episode, Nynaeve does in fact remember her entire life, including the child that she had with Lan when she was in the Arches. Ouch. And Egwene here, I think, is finally showing that little twinge of not just jealousy, but that overzealousness, oohing and eyeing over Nynaeve's accepted ring, while not realizing or just not acknowledging the pain and suffering that Nynaeve went through to get it. To Egwene, it should just be seen as a good thing or something to celebrate, and Nynaeve should be proud to have it and wear it. because that's how Egwene would feel. So she thinks that when she's saying to Nynaeve that it's okay, none of it was real, that she's being consoling, but Nynaeve, in a way, is kind of sad that it wasn't real. Everyone wants her to forget and move on, and I think for Nynaeve, there's this inner struggle where part of her does want to be able to forget, simultaneously, as painful as it is, does not want to let go of those memories, even though it wasn't real. So then we switch to Lan, and I had to pause to see where this was taking place, and we see that it is somewhere in Arafel, which is near the Borderlands, and he appears to just be hanging out with Alana's family at some big family reunion. But Alana points out that Lan's bond has not been ripped from him as it would be with the sudden death of his Aes Sedai. She, i.e. Moiraine, just took it from him, but I'm not really sure how that's possible if Moiraine was blocked or severed and can't feel the bond or use it. Did she get someone else to take the bond off of him? Because it seems like, from how they're portraying it, that he's not bonded to Alana, so is Lan just a free agent and not bonded to anybody at this point in time? They're not really making anything with Moiraine's channeling and their bond very clear yet. I wish that they would just tell us where this Moiraine, Lan, Nynaeve triangle thing is going. It's not in the books, and it just feels a little bit drawn out and unnecessary at this point. The only thing I can think is that they're introducing it to make a little bit of conflict with Lan caught up between his loyalty toward Moiraine versus his loyalties toward Nynaeve, and feelings toward Nynaeve, and him feeling pulled in different directions. It's also ironic that, just like in Nynaeve's accepted test, Alana does tell him in this scene that Nynaeve's going through the Arches. And we do get a little bit of foreshadowing or alluding to the events of New Spring again when Alana tells Lan that she wishes he could have met Moiraine before. Before what? And she says that she doesn't know exactly, but just that something happened to Moiraine about 20 years ago, hint hint. There was just some big personality shift in Moiraine, which as book readers we know alludes to her being present to hear Gitara's foretelling and be one of the few people in the world that knew for sure that the dragon had been reborn. And then we switch back to Moiraine, and it's confirmed that, as I theorized in my last video, she has kind of been tracking Rand and looking for sightings of him, and is also in need of some Gildan red for our boy Logain. And I wonder if we're seeing Logain's madness being played up in the show versus him in the novels. So spoilers for the books. I'll put a timestamp and let you know when to come back if you don't want spoilers, but we will see that abrupt personality difference in him when eventually somewhere down the line Nynaeve is able to rediscover or discover the ability to heal such things. Eventually Nynaeve is able to not only discover how to heal people who have been cut off from the source, both male and female, but also discover how to heal madness in men once it's already set in. So I wonder if we're seeing Logain in particular's madness played up since he's being put in as such a main character in the show, so that we will then get to see the contrast between mad Logain and healed, sane Logain later. We also see in another good bit of Aes Sedai manipulations, Moiraine reveals that she is the one who put Logain here in Cairhien, when he's supposed to, for all intents and purposes, and in the books, be at the Towers and imprisoned there for his entire life. She's the one that planted him in Cairhien, which makes me wonder how she knew Rand was going to go here after he left her and ditched everybody at the end of season 1. But I'm thinking that maybe she just planted Logain here as a means of luring Rand in, and like knowing that maybe if he found out that Logain was there, he would be drawn there, knowing it's another man who can channel. She has apparently wanted Rand to go here and find Logain and learn channeling from him. And I think if Rand finds out, he's gonna be pissed. That conflict of him bucking against the reins of prophecy and his station as the chosen one and wanting to be able to make his own choices, and do his own thing and not feel like he's being manipulated, especially by Aes Sedai, if he finds out that he thought he was not only making his own choices this whole time, re Selene, but also making his own choices re Logain, and finds out that they've both been manipulating him this entire time, he's gonna be pissed. We also then get a nice little Easter egg here when we find out that Selene's inn is fittingly called the Crescent, as in the crescent moon. And it also ties into this episode title being the Daughter of the Night, or Daughter of Night. But then we cut immediately back to Egwene, Elain, and Nynaeve at the tower, and Liandrin is in a little scene here with Leanne, the Amyrlin's keeper, or second in command, where she's asking why the tower hasn't sent any sisters or Aes Sedai to deal with the reports of attacks on the western shore, which we know are the Seanchan, but Leanne dismisses as nothing or not their problem, and again, it's just this insight into how the tower has isolated itself in this age, taken kind of a very laissez-faire attitude towards larger politics and issues in the world as a whole. The Aes Sedai, while they're touting themselves as the end-all be-all and know-it-all and like power players in the world, they're really more fulfilling this role of diplomats as far as greater issues, or like taking a leadership or rulership position in the world. They're supposedly more than happy on the surface to leave the actual rulers of these countries to their own devices, but a lot of people, such as the Queen of Andor, will have an Aes Sedai advisor who's always there with them. It just is more further hints of Aes Sedai politics and that there are rival factions among them. Liandrin, before she leaves, out and out warns Keeper that if the Amyrlin were to fall, that so does she. In Aes Sedai politics and history of the Tower, an Amyrlin falling or being deposed for whatever reason is almost unheard of. So it's very blatant that Liandrin would make such a threat, and I'm just left kind of wondering as a viewer why she would feel ballsy enough to make such an outright threat like this. But it makes me wonder if the Amyrlin being gone and not aware of or on top of the Seanchan invasion could be used as a later excuse to pull her down. So then we cut back to Perrin. He's running with the wolves with Elias. They're somewhere in Ara Doman or the Westlands. And here we see Perrin outright named as a wolf brother for the first time. Perrin, wolf brother, confirmed. And then we also get another little display of the visions that he gets from the wolves as the show's way of showing how the wolves communicate and their wolf language. For it all being largely internal POV and internal narration in the books, I think this is perhaps the best that they can do in terms of translating that to screen. It's just, yeah, a lot of him just getting sent pictures and images, so unless we want to have like a million rapid cutaways of just him being shown random things and him having to try to piece it together and us as the audience having to try to piece together what he's being shown, this is probably just the best way of them communicating to him is by showing him pictures. And then we get the goodest best boy in the form of Hopper, the wolf here, who is already taking a liking to our boy Perrin, and I love him so much already. Perrin says here, "Why did you take so long to come to me?" to Elias, which I think is a fun, like, little nod to book readers who were also mad that we didn't see Elias turn up in season 1. I think we're getting the depiction of the wolf communication and the wolf language this way as a way of tying it further into the wolf dream and in the world of dreams later. Then we switch back to Lan again, and they're kind of giving him this talk about you can still go back to Moiraine if you really want to, and I'm just like, okay, why? Unless he just, like I said, really still feels this loyalty toward Moiraine. I mean, from season 1 it seemed like she was cluing him in that they were searching for someone and that someone was the dragon, but now he doesn't really know what her plans are. So I'm just like, why are we still hung up on this issue and this back and forth, aside from just to create tension of will he, won't he go to Nynaeve. And we're back in Cairhien again, where, as predicted, Moiraine finds Rand's location, but he's already left the city with Selene. I thought maybe they would be leaving Cairhien entirely to go somewhere else, but she's bringing him to her little cabin in the woods. For someone who has a relationship where they've established that they're not talking about their past, Selene sure does love to ramble and talk about her ex a lot. And we get a few other Easter eggs here when she reveals that her ex was long before Rand. She says that Rand is too young to have a past, but Rand says you'd be surprised. The understatement of the age, considering that he is the Dragon Reborn and has a hell of a past. Then she talks more about her ex and how he was the first/only man she has ever loved. He was powerful, confident, arrogant, and that she felt we were always better when we were alone. And I think I'm going to do a whole separate video just on Lanfear. Not only is she just one of my favorite characters in the Wheel of Time, I just find her a fascinating character study. She's one of the most powerful and intelligent women channelers of her age, but she's just hung up on this man, not Lews Therin himself, and what might have just been the wedge between them in their relationship. And what drove him away from her was that she was not in love of the man for like who he was as a person, like she's trying to come off to Rand, but she was more in love of the idea of him and what it represented, the status that came with it. And we see again Rand slipping into his angsty phase when he says that the wheel never gives anyone what they want, least of all me, which again is just him already feeling constrained by prophecy and the burden of his role as the dragon. Then we switch to a scene of Mat and Min where, yay, we finally get to see some Mat dicing in an inn and some fan service for the book readers, and are left wondering, who is Min meeting? We switch back to another scene where it's a one-on-one conversation between Liandrin and Nynaeve. We see Liandrin enticing Nynaeve away from the tower, and I wonder why she's doing this exactly. It's, you know, supposedly to go fight the Shan-Chan and rescue their friends, but is it because she's been given orders to get this powerful channeler out of the tower or out of the way one way or the other so she's not a threat? And I also wonder if her being allowed to run away and the other girls being able to escape or get out of the tower will also fall back on Siuan's shoulders or the Amyrlin's shoulders later. I know it's mostly the lighting in this scene, but Liandrin's outfit just looks straight up black here, and I was like, eee! We see that we cut back to another great, really creepy horror scene with Min, where we see, oh shit, her meeting is with the Dark One, aka is Shamael. Yeah, I was like, oh shit, like Min is in trouble. You do not want to be on a Shamael's radar. I love the way this scene was shot with the cutaways, the jolting, abrupt cutaways with a Shamael to just, again, drive home not just the creepy factor and make him feel spooky, dreamlike, not human, terrifying. We're also kind of with Daenerys Phares and his acting here in this scene, coupled with the cutaway, breaking the fourth wall, and looking at camera. I think we're hopefully going to see more hints that we start getting later toward the end of his appearances in the novels at the insanity lurking just beneath the surface. And we see that for some reason he wants Mat in Cairhien, which I'm not really sure why, other than that he went there in the books. But I thought for sure that they were going to be going south to meet up with everyone in Falme. Then we switch back to Cairhien. Oh, I had another oh shit moment when that Fade stepped out from behind Rand. It's gotta be there at Selene/Lanfear's behest in order to test Rand and force him to channel. She's just cowering behind Rand, acting all scared, like she isn't the one who set this all up in the first place. But then afterwards, like after Rand kills the Fade, afraid, using the power in front of him. While he's doing it, she's lurking behind him, not looking scared at all. And then afterward, I have to hand it to the actress for Selene/Lanfear. I was really nervous going in that I wouldn't like her portrayal. I have to say that as not only an actress playing Lanfear, but then Lanfear playing Selene in this scene, where she's acting all scared at Rand channeling. Oh, she is just really selling it. Selene herself, like Lanfear herself as Selene, has the acting in this scene. I also just thought it was hilarious and another great nod to her overall character, that after all this happened and they were both, you know, allegedly attacked by a Fade out of nowhere, and then she learns out of nowhere that Rand is a male channeler, which is a big taboo and really dangerous to be around, and anyone in this world in their right mind who learned that would be right to be scared of him. All she can focus on is that in the midst of all this, all she can focus on is the fact that he dropped the L-bomb. Classic Lanfear. We get some more Easter eggs then when she's talking about her past relationship, i.e. Lews Therin, the last dragon. Some more really good insight into her and her character, where she says that she turned her soul to him like a mirror to reflect only what he wanted to see in her, leaving half of me in darkness, which is not only just an allusion to her true nature as a Forsaken and someone allied to the Dark One, but just also that even before she turned to the dark and pledged herself to the Dark One, that was in her nature. She tried to hide that side of herself from Lews Therin, that ambitious, power-hungry side of her, the side of her that saw him more as a status symbol or a trophy man rather than as a whole person. It was that ambitious, power-hungry nature which led to her being the one that released the Dark One into the world in the first place. So I'll do a whole separate video going into a whole deep dive on Lanfear and her background. But yeah, I will just say that I was so worried going in as someone who loves Lanfear in the books that I would not like her portrayal in the show. She's just killing it. And I also love in this scene that we see her, a woman, channeling from Rand's perspective, where we can tell that she's doing something, but a man can't see a woman's weaves, so he can tell something is happening and she's doing something, but he can't specifically see exactly what she's doing. And then the third oh shit moment, did Moiraine really just sneak up out of nowhere and stealth kill Lanfear of all people? First of all, they really underestimate the sneakiness. Second of all, there's no way she's dead. All I could think at this point was that I was low-key mad that now this means that we're not gonna get Portal Stone travel scenes with her and Rand, and I was a little bit mad that we got the reveal to Rand that she was Lanfear so early on. I had predicted in my last video that we might get the reveal to the audience that she was Lanfear in this episode, but that it might be a while longer before Rand learned, and that she might be around manipulating him for a lot longer. Apparently not. And we know that, like, Aes Sedai cannot heal themselves. It was even established in the show in season 1 that Moiraine couldn't heal herself with the power. The Forsaken must just not only just be way stronger, but have some unknown healing weaves, which have since been lost. Because even in the episode, we see Lanfear's not dead. I'm a little bit mad as a book reader now that we are apparently not going to get Portal Stone travel. In the preview for episode 5, where it was a split second shot of what I think was Lanfear riding on horseback. It might be Moiraine. It was a little bit hard to tell because it was so dark and we didn't see the person for very long, but it was a woman channeling on horseback, and I think it was Lanfear. But we saw a brief shot of a stone with writing on it, which might have been a portal stone, so maybe we will still see that. Hopefully, I hope, because I'm gonna be mad if we don't. We also see Liandrin with the girls in the ways going somewhere, and then we see that Perrin is going to meet Aviendha as the Aiel in the cage that he will rescue next episode. Not Gaul, sad face. I love Gaul, Bane, and Shiad. We know Bane and Shiad have been cast along with Aviendha, so I'm hoping that maybe Gaul will still show up with them, even if he's not the one in the cage. Please, please give me Gaul. I love him. He's one of my favorite characters. What do we know? Let's get into some predictions. Even though they're on the run from Lanfear, I wonder if Moiraine and Rand are gonna have to go back through Cairhien, because we still know that Rand has to have the face-to-face with the Amyrlin at some point this season, and I thought it was going to take place in Cairhien, and we also know that at some point the queen now of Cairhien, not the king, is going to have to be deposed or killed in order to set off that whole story arc, which will not only just set Cairhien itself and the entire country / Randland into turmoil, but really piss off Moiraine's sister, since her son was supposed to marry into that family. And it makes me wonder, with Mat and Min being sent by Ishamael to Cairhien, and Mat getting that Min seeing Mat potentially stab Rand at some point, if Mat is going to be set up to somehow be involved in the Queen of Cairhien's death, or if it will just be the Forsaken taking them out to set things in motion. But either way, it's probably going to be blamed on the dragon somehow. And then with how much we're seeing of Liandrin in this episode, particularly what she said to the Keeper, it really makes me wonder, are they combining Liandrin and Elaida into one character? Because we were supposed to get Elaida introduced when we had Andor introduced, but that hasn't happened yet. I don't know when it or if it's going to happen, but it does make me wonder if they're combining Liandrin and Elaida, which would make me sad, because yes, I know that Liandrin as a character definitely gets sidelined in the later novels in a major way, and with how good her actress is in the show and just how much she's being established in these seasons as an early adversary, I would hate to see her go. But I like Elaida as a character, even though I hate her as a character. She's probably the character I hate the most in the Wheel of Time, and I think she's kind of set up that way. To me, she's like the Dolores Umbridge of Wheel of Time. Elaida is not a dark friend. There's a lot of ambiguity, especially as the series was coming out, whether or not she was a dark friend, but she's not actually a dark friend herself, but she's just as evil in her own right, and I think just as important of a character in her own right, because she shows, just like Umbridge, how these people might not be pledged directly to the Dark One, but they still make useful tools for the Dark because of their attitudes and their actions. Elaida in the novels largely becomes a puppet and a tool for the Dark, which I just can't see Liandrin, as she's being portrayed in the show, being a puppet or a tool for anyone. Also, I just wanted to point out, I think I am correct in my assumption that in season 1, perhaps we weren't seeing as elaborate of weaves, in part because VFX and in part because we were seeing things from the Emmons Fielder's perspective in a lot of it, where they were able to see that Saidar was being channeled but not see the specific weaves, whereas now that they are in the tower and learning more about Saidar and how the power works, where we as the audience are also learning more about the complexity and expanding the complexity of the magic system as the show goes on and as the characters learn more. And I think that was definitely confirmed here in this episode with Lanfear channeling in front of Rand and him not being able to see the weaves but tell that she was channeling the power, which we know is a thing that Rand can do in later books. I think also it was confirmed by the showrunners that Logain could not see Nynaeve's specific channeling and weaves of Saidar in that scene in season 1 where they were together, just see the worldly effects and after effects of her being able to channel. Overall, I can understand and even appreciate in some cases needing to condense and consolidate a lot of the book plots because they are very long and drawn out. I mean, even book readers know all about the infamous slog, as it's called, and that there are a lot of book plots that are all happening simultaneously. But I'm really hoping that we will get the return of some of the storylines like the Portal Stones and like Tom Marilyn especially. I'm really sad that we're not seeing him in this season. I feel like we got the fan service introduction of Bail Domon that I was thirsting for last season, but only as a brief character cameo, so I hope we get him and his boat coming back up in this season. I'm hoping that Min and Matt will maybe hitch a ride on his boat to get to Cairhien within these next episodes. Since they introduced him, I feel like it would be a waste to introduce Bail Domon and then not bring him back. We know that Perrin's going to meet Aviendha, and we'll see the Aiel introduced next episode, so I'm really excited to see that and see Aiel culture introduced, because I think we're going to get a lot more of that story arc in the next season, and I'm excited and interested to see how the show is going to differentiate the Aiel culture from the Fremen in Dune, because let's face it, Rand's journey as the Kara Karn of the Aiel in the books is really similar to Paul's journey as Muad'Dib with the Fremen in the Dune books, so that did make me really happy that the Dune movie leaned so heavily into the sci-fi aesthetics. That way, this Wheel of Time Aiel culture can rely more on the traditional, like, medieval fantasy when it comes to the Aiel, and still be able to differentiate it from the Fremen in Dune, because they're really similar, let's face it. So in summary, sadly I would have to say that out of the episodes we've seen, and as much as I was really excited to see the reveal of Lanfear as a character, this was perhaps one of my least favorite episodes so far, just because of the pacing. The pacing was just starting to feel really rushed compared to the first 3 episodes. It was really going back more toward the season 1 pacing that I didn't like, where it just felt like a really rushed speed run of the plot. So I hope that they are able to dial it back a little bit and slow it down a little bit more, and hopefully we'll get some of the characters regrouping, which will help with that. With this episode, we were definitely just bouncing around a lot more rapidly than it felt like we were in the first few episodes. So as much as I loved the reveal of Lanfear, I didn't really understand why the reveal was coming from Alanna and her warders. I think it would have been cooler if it came from Moiraine. I'm curious to see where Lan is going to go and what his choice will be, just so we can resolve his dilemma and wrap that storyline up. And yeah, I'm curious to see where Rand and Moiraine are going to go, if they're going to go back to Cairhien and meet up with Matt there, or if Matt is just being sent to Cairhien to wreak some havoc there and sow some seeds of chaos on behalf of Ishamael. Because yeah, we know with the book plot that we're going to get the Perrin fighting the White Cloaks, and that at some point the ruler of Cairhien is going to go bye-bye. So I think we're going to see that in the next couple episodes here, and then we'll get more of the Shan-Chan. Thanks again for tuning in to these videos. I think I'm gonna plan on doing more Wheel of Time related content just because it's fun for me. I look forward to the next episode summary and review with you, and let me know what your thoughts were about this episode. Until next time, stay classy, pagans.